Hello my friends! Hope you don't mind, but today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. Instead of looking through things through a purely analytical lens, we're going to be using some of our lore knowledge to have some fun what-if scenarios. But before we begin, I'd like to make an announcement. My channel did pass 10,000 subscribers on Christmas Day, which was absolutely lovely to wake up to. And since then, I've been going through a lot of sources to try and improve things moving forward. While I might not be a big name in the Final Fantasy XIV community or lore channels in general, I would like to keep going and bring as much as I can to you all moving on in the future. To that end, I am starting up a Patreon. I understand for a lot of you that might make your eyes roll, and trust me, I get it. But up to this point, I have been operating off of no budget, so any and all—
like as a content creator, you have to, and I think people have grown into the mindset that if they want to continue to you know, get entertainment, that these people like need to eat as well. And I think it's totally fine to make this kind of announcement. I personally try also not to overdo it, and I think everyone also does. But it's just an important concept. It didn't, like, people before had a really tough time with this, because entertainment used to be something that that we all kind of considered to be either free or like a monthly bill. And it's like the fact that content creation has become something that people do full-time independently, not just as like within companies or within whatever big groups, communities and such, who kind of keep them afloat. I think people are more aware of these kinds of things, so I'm very happy for them.
All proceeds made to me and the channel will go to making sure I can continue making content for you all. And not just continue making content, but to try and improve its quality over time as well. If I don't have to worry about money, I can focus on making videos. It's really that simple. If you don't feel like me or my channel are worth investing into, that's fine. I understand ever since COVID started, things have been gotten wacky for people in the financial department. But I also understand there are a lot of you that have voiced an interest in supporting me in one way or another too, and I hope this is a way to satisfy that desire to assist.
I feel like, if anything, like at 10k subs, he should have started the Patreon earlier. Most content creators, if you look at what happens, if you look at what happens until the 10k mark, most people will have around one Patreon or one supporter per 1k subscribers. This is not a rule, but it is something that happens a lot. So if it's like, I don't know, if you have patrons for like, I don't know, $5 or $10 or whatever, even smaller amounts, like you could potentially be getting at least, I don't know, $100 a month that you could invest into some subscriptions or equipment or anything like that, depending on where you live. Like where I live, that's like 1/3 of monthly income for a lot of people around here, so it's worth a lot more around here. But like if you're like in the, I don't know, let's say in the States or somewhere where things are more expensive, you can invest that money into equipment over time and into software and all these different things, so that's good.
So from now on, there's going to be a link to my Patreon in the description of every video moving forward, and I will be advertising other ways to help me moving on in the future as well. So thank you all so much for your support up to 10,000 subscribers, and I really hope to continue growing the channel and seeing where all of this takes me moving forward. I have a lot of respect for some of the huge lore channels on YouTube, and I would be happy to stand among them one day, if only to give you some more juicy lore and interesting storytelling in the future. But enough talking about me. Let's get back to the video. So in today's hypothetical, which job in Final Fantasy XIV would be the most dangerous to pick a fight with, even in a relaxed public setting? The answer might be obvious to some, not as obvious to others. But after going through the game's abilities, animations, and doing a once-over in the books to make sure I got my lore straight, I think I've created an arguably solid list of where I would put all the jobs on a sort of tier list. But for this hypothetical, there are more than a few rules going into this. Without rules, this hypothetical could be literally anything, and that's just not as fun. So, rule number 1. They can't have their usual weapons, armor, or accessories, which means no sneaky sub-perks or enchantments that they can just carry around on themselves. Assume that the job in question is...
Yeah, I have seen some of his videos already, but sometimes it takes like a few videos for me to really kind of start to notice someone or recognize their voice or their channel or whatever. And if one of the like videos that I saw wasn't as impactful, like I wouldn't be inclined to subscribe. But or maybe there was something in it that I didn't like in particular or whatever, so I didn't see it as as worth it, or maybe it was just me forgetting, whatever. But I'm glad I finally did.
at a ball, a party, or even a tavern that requires that you leave all your junk at the door. Rule number 2. We're only going to be discussing abilities and skills that are shown in-game or discussed in the books. So while there are some things that we can imply about certain jobs because of what they're able to do, if it's not shown in-game or discussed in the books, then we're going to leave that on the back burner for now. So the fanfiction stuff stays at the door. Rule number 3. Let's assume every job in this hypothetical is level 90 and are masters of their craft. And finally, rule number 4. The jobs in question don't know that someone is about to pick a fight with them.
I love these rule presets. It really kind of gets you into the mindset of, let's see what happens.
So they've had no time to prepare and no means of knowing that this was going to happen. So the question ultimately is, from a disarmed perspective, which jobs are able to go from 0 to 60 the fastest? Before we get into the tier list though, I would like everyone to know that fighting any of these jobs, even unarmed, is a really bad idea. Even the jobs on the lowest tiers of this list will be able to absolutely body a normal person, even if they're unarmed. So even on Casual Joe's good day,
I love how he says that, like making everyone who currently feels like they're playing a suboptimal job, they're like, okay, I can still beat everyone else who's normal.
He still wouldn't stand a chance against an unarmed member of one of these respectable disciplines. And without further ado, let's begin. We're going to go from weakest to strongest in a public setting. So, we're starting out with the D tier. Filling out the D tier is Gunbreaker, Bard, and Machinist. Now, I already feel some of you are going to start recoiling a bit, so hear me out at least. After going through the animations for Gunbreaker, Machinist, and reading them over again, almost all of their abilities use their weapons or tools in one way or another. So when the gross majority of your kit involves using something that isn't allowed in this hypothetical party, then you're not nearly as dangerous as you usually are. In Machinist's case, of course they wouldn't be allowed to bring their Aethro Transformer or gun into a room. Same with a Gunbreaker. Sure, with weapon in hand, they're able to lay siege to some things that are 10 times their size. But Gunbreakers were fundamentally designed without the idea of taking on normal people on a day-to-day basis.
True.
And that brings us to Bard. Most of a Bard's damaging abilities are tied to their bow in one way or another.
Like Bards only resort to singing instead of playing.
Yes, they are able to inflict minor damage with their songs and empower their allies with them. Honestly, I'd argue that a bard is more likely to talk themselves out of the situation with their silver tongue before ever having to lift a fist. So the strength in a bard in this situation is their voice, not their fighting capabilities. So I would argue that bard is the highest of the D tier.
If you saw the new season of Witcher, this is more funny than what it normally should be.
With Machinist and Gunbreaker unfortunately sharing the bottom of the barrel, since all of their skills and abilities rely super heavy on their weapons and tools. Moving up to C tier, we have Paladin, Dancer, and Dragoon.
True. Okay.
I would say that Dragoon is bottom of the C tier, just above the D tier.
I can't argue with this. Like, if I have to leave my sword and my shield outside, like, who am I anymore?
Simply because of the fact that without their weapon, they're still able to move extremely quickly and perform their jumping abilities without much problem. But unless it's an open-air party, or ball for this instance, then they're not going to be able to jump very high. And their weapon is usually the thing that withstands the brunt of the impact whenever they're attacking something. There's no telling what kind of damage their own body might sustain on impact, especially when they don't have armor to cushion the blow. So I suppose in this situation, a Dragoon would be most dangerous with the threat of a flying jump kick coming at you from orbit. Moving up the C tier, we have Dancer. Like some of the other jobs we discussed, most of their damaging abilities come from their weapons, or using their weapons in one way, shape, or form. But a Dancer is able to stimulate their Aether and the Aether around them to be released into massive bursts of damage. This would not only catch one person by surprise, but many people by surprise. Plus, abilities like En Avant don't require the use of weapons, so they can sidestep people that are trying to fight them relatively easily. And moving up to the top of C tier, we have Paladins. Unfortunately, Paladins are most well known for their thick shields and heavy armor, so deprived of both, they're mostly just holy spellcasters. And honestly, their magic is what
Come on, we still have the Snowflake of Death.
makes them dangerous even without their weapons and armor. They're able to heal themselves, inflict damage, and combo their enemies with said spells if they're really feeling it. The problem with a paladin in this situation is that, again, a lot of their abilities require their weapons in one way or another, and on top of that, their spells aren't exactly Aether efficient.
Yeah, I haven't been doing my Dancer job quests yet. My Dancer is currently level 70, but I've been holding off on those, and I've been wanting to do them on stream. So that will probably happen next week.
In question, better hope that their spells are enough to finish whatever is happening quickly, or it's not going to turn out well. With Paladin topping the C tier, we move on to the B tier. And within the B tier are every single mage in Final Fantasy XIV. Red Mage, Black Mage, Summoner, Blue Mage, White Mage, Sage, Astrologian, Scholar, you name it, all of the mages are here in B tier. The reason all of the mages are here in B tier is because you don't necessarily need your weapon to cast spells. Of course, without your focus, your staff, or weapon that helps you channel Aether, yeah, your magical power is going to be greatly diminished. Instead of being able to focus your power through a lens and turn it into a laser, it's going to be more all over the place, but no less dangerous. The reason all of them sit so comfortably in B tier is
it like for like rogues? Is it gonna is he gonna take into consideration that they get sneaky and that they can actually just like take a weapon and just kind of hide it in their like shoes or their underwear or whatever and be like, "Ha! I still have a weapon."
mage is never helpless, even without their weapons. It's more of a question of how strong are they without them? Because even during the Second Astral Era, early mages were practicing with and without different types of weapons to see what would make them the strongest. Some mages didn't even use weapons at all. They tattooed runes and special symbols on their body to help channel Aether for them. And people that didn't get the tattoos usually had those same symbols woven into garments and special apparel so that they could still weave incantations with or without their weapons in hand. So even without their weapons helping to channel and focus their magic, a mage is still extremely dangerous. And the reason all of them make up the B tier. Though I would argue that if I was going to put any job at the top of B tier, it would be Black Mage, simply because of their raw destructive capabilities. Moving up, we run into the bottom of A tier, which in this case is Samurai. Now, some of you might be surprised that I put Samurai this high on the list, given that mostly they're known
they need
for
a
using
weapon,
a
right?
katana. And honestly, I would have been surprised too if I didn't reread and notice that samurais didn't always use katanas when first arriving in the world. It actually started out as a martial art, a discipline that used and applied different forms of bodily movements to execute powerful attacks. By turning their body into a weapon, and then making their weapon an extension of their being, A samurai is truly made to shine. But even without their weapon, their battle trance is still something to be reckoned with, and the focus that they're able to have during combat, regardless of the position they're in.
Yes, there's actually a proof in one of the TV shows that I've recently seen. Do you know Alice in Borderland, the TV show? I don't wanna spoil it for anyone, but there is a combat scene where one of the girls who trained in her I can't say that. You know what I mean if you saw the I don't want to say anything about it because it will be a spoiler. But that particular scene in the show, like the way she fought even without the weapon, like that's all the proof that you need.
Is still very much dangerous. Above Samurai is Reaper. And I'm going to be completely blunt here. It has a stand, everyone. And yes, this is a JoJo reference. The Reaper's ability to not even lift a finger and summon an entity from another realm to fight for them is got to be one of the most rule-breaking things in this entire hypothetical. If people look at a Reaper's avatar and don't immediately shit themselves, they're probably running away scared, if not already being ripped apart by it. So not only does the Reaper have an avatar to help fight for them, but there's the surprise aspect of people not expecting a void scent to suddenly try and bite their face off.
Like, if this was World of Warcraft, then warlocks could easily be there. And actually, well, I don't know. Okay, well, yeah, I guess the summoner pets, they're strong, but they're not really, well, they are scary.
But sitting above Reaper in this tier is actually Warrior. Warrior sits so comfortably in A tier that it's painful. With or without their weapon, their inner beast is still very much a part of them, and they're more than happy to let it loose to cause some havoc. A couple of their abilities even show them not even using their weapon, and they choose to just punch instead.
Oh, okay.
So without their
this is just me not knowing Warrior. It's fine.
axe, a warrior isn't nearly as devastating as they normally are, but their punches are still going to bury themselves so far into your trachea that you're not going to live to see tomorrow. But given the presence of certain abilities, I had to put Dark Knight one step above Warrior at the top of A tier. Dark Knight has the benefits of what puts Reaper and Warrior in A tier. A Dark Knight doesn't need a weapon to cast their spells or use many of their abilities. Spells like Blackest Night and Oblation are able to just be cast, which in this hypothetical would increase a Dark Knight's defense the highest out of every job in this list. But it's not only defense they have going for them at this moment. The thing that turns the tables for them is the ability Living Shadow. Like Reaper, they're able to summon an avatar to fight for them.
That's what first got me into, one of the things that got me into Final Fantasy. I had these dreams about playing the Dark Knight, and I saw that job action thing, and I was like, I'm so in for this. And I never even ended up leveling a Dark Knight, but I stayed.
Essentially, Dark Knight breaks all the rules we've established for this hypothetical because they're able to create a Living Shadow that has the weapons and armor and all the things that we've taken away from all the other jobs. They've created a weapon, the biggest thing that we've tried to take away from all the other jobs in this list. So with a Dark Knight's ability to increase their defense massively and create a Living Shadow that's able to fight their battles for them, Dark Knight sits at the top of A tier, because they're able to turn the fight from fighting one person into two people, one of whom is fully armed and armored. But above Dark Knight, we have two jobs still resting in S tier. At the bottom of S tier is the Ninja.
That makes sense.
And I like to think to a lot of people this was pretty obvious.
Yeah.
Ninjas, throughout history, both in Final Fantasy XIV and our own world, were disciplined and trained to be able to handle different...
Like, every single job that is trained to handle close combat like that, not just in a tanky way, like Pally's warriors and such, but who are able to actually, deal heavy damage in close combats. Like, they're gonna be there regardless of the weapons.
Scenarios, regardless of the situation they're in. Their most common use as things like spies and intelligence gatherers meant that they're able to take care of themselves even in a relaxed public setting.
I was right though about ninjas and like their kind being pretty much at the top.
Even if the ninja is unprepared or doesn't know a fight's coming, they've likely already thought of ways to escape or rip out someone's jugular after entering a room. And that's before going into the fact that a ninja doesn't even need special tools to use their mudras. They're able to weave their hands together and summon a bolt of lightning to smite you. That's not the kind of person you want to get in a bar fight with. And finally, at the top of our list, the job that you absolutely do not want to piss off under any circumstance regardless of where you are, is a monk. In this hypothetical, was there really any doubt? Monks are trained to become living weapons. They don't need any special trinkets, armor, or weapons to absolutely destroy their opponents.
They are weapons.
Even an unarmed monk is able to outmaneuver and overpower their opponent with relative ease. And even if their opponent turns out to be armed and armored, there's nothing stopping a monk from dashing across the room and blitzing them.
I love how in these scenarios where a weapon gets taken away, like what do you do with these like massive people who have their bodies pretty much made of steel, or people who are, you know, just masters of their martial arts? Like, how do they leave their weapons outside? They are the weapons.
While most jobs in 14 require some kind of cast time, prep work, or weapon to really draw out their strongest abilities, a monk's body is its greatest weapon, and they're more than happy to use it. Be thankful that many of their teachings talk about restraint and discipline. If a monk really did want to go nuts at a party, there would be not much that's able to stop them outside of Godbert Manderville coming out of nowhere and suplexing them into the ground.
Jeez.
But that's my tier list. Let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree with my choices. Was my list the same as yours, or would you have moved some and others into higher or lower ranks? If you had fun with this hypothetical, let me know, and we'll discuss similar what-if scenarios in the future. So, to keep this video from getting too long, thank you all so much for listening to me at the start, and thank you so much for helping me grow this channel as it has over the past few months. I look forward to sharing even more with all of you in the future. Until then, stay safe, my friends.